Fellas, if your physique looks anything like these pictured here, then this video is going to be your sign it's time to recomp your physique. And by recomping, I mean losing fat and building muscle. And I know after years of propaganda, we've been led to believe that there's no possible way for you to build muscle or even build the physique you want unless you undergo a calorie surplus and you go through a continuous cycle of bulking and cutting and bulking and cutting, either liking your physique but hating the way you're eating, or loving the way you're eating but hating your physique. I don't think anybody would deny that their physique would look better with more muscle mass and less body fat, but I don't believe that a lot of guys know it's actually possible for them and they can do it starting today. So, like I said in the beginning of the video, if your physique looks anything like these, it's a good sign you want to recomp. Now, why recomposition is important is number one, of course, you're going to look better. You're going to look more aesthetic. You're going to look like you lift, but biologically, you're going to actually perform better in the gym. Your physique is going to be in a better position to put on more muscle, your nutrient partitioning gets better, and you're going to be in a more anabolic state because you're more insulin sensitive. That means you have a better response to the carbs that you're eating. Your pumps are going to be better, you're going to sleep better, you're going to look better, you're going to look fuller, you're going to look tighter, you're going to look leaner. Overall, quality of life is going to improve if you're at a stage where you could afford to cut a little bit of body fat and you do so. And this is especially true if you're a skinny fat guy, meaning you already have a relatively low amount of muscle mass, but you're just carrying too much body fat. A lot of guys go wrong in the execution of how to pull off a successful recomp. And before we get into how, I'm going to show you 3 mistakes I always see guys make when they're looking to recomp their physique. The number one mistake I see guys make when it comes to recomping and even just starting off their cut is they start their deficit way too low. So they start a harsh deficit. And what typically ends up happening, if you've experienced too harsh of a deficit before, it's going to look a lot like this. Your weight's going to start steady, and then your glycogen, your water is all going to fall off because now your calories are super low. You're going to be super happy because you see the scale going down really fast. But what's going to end up happening is you're going to bottom out. And when you bottom out, everything in your life just gets worse. You're hangry, you don't feel good, your pumps don't feel good, working out's not fun, eating's not fun. And then what ends up happening is super compensation. So you hit this bottom point, your weight's at its lowest, it starts tapering off because now your metabolism is fried. And then what happens is you decide you're tired of cutting and you decide you actually need more muscle, so then you have to bulk. Or maybe you're just tired of cutting in general, so you throw it out the window. You're going to start eating again. After being in this low metabolic state, your cortisol is really high, your IGF-1 is low, now you're more insulin resistant, everything looks worse. And all that happens is your weight shoots way back up because your body has gone from a starved state, now it wants to hold on to as many nutrients as possible. You're going to eat those nutrients because you're tired of cutting, and then you're going to gain a bunch of weight back. And then it starts this cycle where you're going to lose a bunch of weight at first, and then you're going to gain it, and then you're going to lose a bunch of weight, and then you're going to gain it back. Obviously, the trend line starts going up, and then you just gain more weight over a longer period of time. Life gets worse, you don't enjoy eating, you don't enjoy working out, and you fall off the wagon. Starting in a harsh deficit is the number one way to fail at a diet. I see it time and time again. The second biggest mistake I see guys make is they completely cut out all carbs. They go keto, they do intermittent fasting. They want to just completely get rid of carbs because they heard somewhere that cutting out carbs will help them lose weight. Intuitively, it sounds good, and to a certain degree, it does kind of work. But for how long does it work? Same way with going to a harsh deficit. It works at first, but it's going to fall off later down the road. If we think about our macros like a big piece of pie, there we go, right? We have our carbs, we have our proteins, we have our fats, and this makes up my calorie intake for the day. So it makes sense, okay? I completely cut out my carb intake. Now I'm missing this giant piece of the pie. My calories are actually significantly lower. It makes sense why I'm losing weight. Most people just will eat a little bit more fat, a little bit more protein, and they'll accidentally put themselves in a deficit by cutting out carbs. So it does work, but for how long? They lose weight and they feel really good for the first week. Their glycogen starts falling off. Their muscles aren't holding any more glycogen. Therefore, they're not holding as much water. Therefore, they're going to lose a little bit of weight. They're, again, going to get this massive drop in weight right out of the gate because they're accidentally putting themselves in a deficit. But if you've gone low carb long enough, you know it's not a sustainable diet. Kudos to the people who can maintain it, but there is yet to be a civilization in history that has survived on a primarily carnivore diet. They've all had some sort of carbs in their diet. The ones that go carnivore are usually primal and they get wiped out. What happens is they get this massive drop in calories. They find it's not sustainable to cut out carbs. Their pumps get worse. They become flat. They don't look good. They don't feel good. Their brain's all foggy. What ends up happening is they add carbs back in. They're now eating carbs again. And so now their calories are higher and they gain that weight back. And then they go through this vicious cycle of up, down, up, down, up, down. Time and time again, cutting out carbs, number one, is not sustainable. And even more so, your training is actually going to get worse. When you go into a harsh deficit, when you cut out carbs, your doing that at the cost of building more muscle, and you're actually probably going to lose muscle, which is important in the equation of body fat percentage. It's a whole other half of what body fat percentage even means and why we're here lowering it. Carbs are going to fuel your performance in your brain. They're going to fuel your performance in the gym. They're going to be more anabolic than it would just trying to cut fat as fast as possible. Carbs are your friend. They're never going to be the enemy. Now, this third one is a little bit more nuanced. What's going to make more of a difference is avoiding the first two, but I want to speak to this point because I see it happen a lot, specifically with more skinny fat guys, the guys who have relatively low muscle mass yet still high body fat, and that is not getting lean enough before adding calories. Now, I'm not here to say bulking is bad, but this is a little bit more advanced than just someone who's looking to generally recomp or is generally new to fitness. The biggest reason we're recomping is so that we can get as lean as possible and spare as much muscle as possible at the same time, so we get the best of both worlds. Now, if you are a skinny fat guy, it's going to be best for you to recomp rather than bulking, especially skinny fat guys, because they've always been told they just have to eat more to build the muscle, to build the size, and they honestly just want the size. That's the worst thing you can do in this situation. You're going to make yourself more insulin resistant, you're going to look worse, and you're going to get nominal strength gains because you can make the same amount of strength gains while still in a deficit and getting leaner. You're not going to look better being bigger, but you are always going to look better when you're leaner. When it comes to recomping or cutting in general, it's important you get as lean as possible so that you become insulin sensitive and your nutrition partitioning becomes better. Muscle is a very expensive resource for your body to maintain. When you intake nutrients in this state, your body is going to prefer to shuttle them to your muscles. It's going to prefer to shuttle carbs to your muscles. It's going to keep protein to repair and upkeep your muscles, and it's going to break down fat. The biggest mistake I see guys make is they don't get lean enough. They don't get to this point where they are super insulin sensitive. They'll call it here or even here because they finally see an outline of their abs, but they're not lean enough for them to add calories back in. So you always want to make sure that when you recomp, when you cut, you are getting significantly leaner so that when you add calories back in, your body uses them well and you can maintain that fast, more efficient metabolism that you've been sustaining in your cut. You don't want to get so lean that your hormones are crashing and that you're not getting in workouts and that you're not progressing in the gym. But more often than not, guys are going to struggle with not being lean enough rather than being too lean. So now that we've gone over the three biggest mistakes, I want to now get into how you can recomp your physique and finally build a leaner, more muscular physique, the same one you've been chasing for the past however many years. In this video specifically, I'm going to be speaking more to the nutrition and external components because I believe that makes up 80% of it. Watch my other videos if you need help with the lifting piece, but I'm going to assume this is for someone who's lifting 4+ days a week. I'm assuming your program is efficient and you're building muscle and you're making progress on it. It's always worth auditing because more oftentimes than not, I see guys who think they're making progress and then we take a deeper look at their program and they've been at the same pressing weight for the past 6 months. So that all being said, let's get into the nutrition piece of it. Number one on the full recomp protocol is going to be starting in a moderate deficit. Now, this is the antithesis to starting in a super harsh deficit. What it looks like to actually start in a reasonable deficit is you want to lose about a pound a week to start. The best way I've found to lose about a pound a week is to take your goal body weight and multiply it by 15 to start. And that's going to be your week 1 deficit. You're probably going to lose more than a pound in that first week. If your body's not used to dieting, you're probably going to lose more than a pound in that first week. That's okay. It's typically just your stomach holding less food. Your glycogen is going to flush out a little bit. Your water is going to flush out as well. But generally, this is the best place to start in a deficit. If you're 180 pounds, that's going to be right around 2,700 calories. You might even gain weight there, and that's okay as well. This is where you want to start. If it's not a deficit for you, it will be soon, but you're going to start at your goal body weight times 15 here. From here, and this is key. Just like in your lifts, you need progression in your diet. You need to slowly taper down your calories rather than just cutting them in half. So from here, what you're going to watch for is you're going to see where your weight goes week over week. The same way we track calories week over week, we're going to track our weight week over week, and we're going to respond based on that. And so if our weight goes up, of course, we're going to go down. But what we're really looking for is if our weight goes down, we're going to stay the same. If our weight is stagnant, plus or minus 0.3 pounds, meaning if I'm 180 and it's 177.7 or 180.3, then I'm also going to go down. And what I'm going to go down by is 200 calories. 200 calories. So then I'm going to drop my calories by 200, and I'm going to continue working through my deficit for the next week. So if my deficit here was 2,700, the next week it's going to look like 25. I'm going to eat that for a week. I'm going to see where my weight goes, and then it's just a rinse and repeat of this structure here. That is the absolute best setup you can follow for recomping or for cutting in general. Number 2, this one is also as important. We're going to follow a high protein, high carb diet. I'm going to keep this really short and sweet. I see a lot of debates online. I'm not into it. I just go with what works and what I've seen work consistently. And so you're going to follow a high protein, high carb diet. Now, what this looks like for most guys is it's going to be 1.2 times goal body weight equals grams of protein. So you're going to take your goal body weight and you're going to multiply it by 1.2 times. Alternatively with this, Don't go under 190 grams. That's just something I firmly believe in. Get as close to 200 as you can for really any body weight, unless you're a female. If you're a female watching this, follow this standard here. But if you're a guy and you have red blood flowing through your body, 1.2 times is the goal. Now, second on the list, you're going to go 1.75 to 2 times goal body weight in grams of carbs. That's as simple as we're going to keep it. I don't want to get any further. Follow this and then backfill with fat. Make sure you're getting at least 35 to 50 grams of fat if you're a man. If you're a female, you probably need more. Make sure you're at least getting enough fat to support your hormone profile. But generally, people get too much fat and they don't get enough protein. So this is a great way to curb that. That's all the bases you need to cover in terms of how to set your macros and how to set your calories. We're going to get into 2 more nuanced strategies that I've seen work really well, not only in my own physique, but also for all of my clients. Third up on the list is you're going to need to introduce carb cycling. Now, it's at your discretion when you want to incorporate this. I see no issue starting at week 1, but a lot of times you'll get more benefit once you get into a deficit. You sit in a deficit for a little bit, typically around week 2 or 3. You've lost a little bit of weight, and then you introduce carb cycling while at the same baseline calories so that you can squeeze a little bit more blood out of the stone. It's super easy to set up. You're going to essentially fluctuate high and low days between your carb intake. Now, you don't necessarily need the same amount of carbs, which is just a quick fuel source, on the days that you're squatting as the same days that you're sitting on the couch just watching TV. Now, that being said, what matters more at the end of the week is how many calories you took in week over week in terms of losing weight. But carb cycling is a great way to not only teach your body how to become more insulin sensitive, how to teach it to partition nutrients better, but also how to manage fatigue when it comes to the lower calorie days and you need more nutrients for your lifts. How I structure this with all of my guys is we're going to go 50 grams of carbs extra on training days. Put on TD. That looks like a Q. All you're going to do is 50 grams extra of carbs. Put a C here for carbs. 50 grams extra of carbs on your training days. On your rest days, you're going to go minus 50 grams of carbs. And we'll put on RD. So you're going to go 50 grams extra of carbs on your training days, minus 50 grams of carbs on your rest days. That equals 200 calories. Whatever your baseline is, some days are going to be higher for your carb days, and some days are going to be lower on your rest days. If you're training 4 days a week, there's going to be 4 days where you have 50 grams extra of carbs. And on 3 days where you're taking a rest, there's going to be 50 grams less of carbs. The only caveat being, if you're already a really high body fat percentage, I wouldn't take your 50 grams extra of carbs on every single training day. What I would do instead is pick 2 days that are your hardest lifts when you get deeper into a deficit and choose those days as a day that you're going to begin carb cycling. Last but not least, because a majority of guys are going to skip this, and I'm looking at you who's watching the video, is doing LISS cardio. Low intensity, steady state cardio. You're going to stay at about a 60 to 70% heart rate zone. That is where your body is going to prefer to burn fat. The reason you want to do it post-workout is because you do not want to use up all of your glycogen doing cardio. You want to use up your glycogen, those quick carbs on your lifts so that you're strong. And then you want to go do your cardio. Fat is going to burn in the presence of oxygen. If you've depleted your glycogen stores are now lower. Now, when you go do your cardio, it's going to be purely fat burning cardio. A really simple protocol for this is just going to be 3 to 5 times a week. And all you're going to do is go 30 minutes of this low intensity steady state cardio. Look to keep your heart rate between 120 and 130 beats per minute. That is going to be the fat burning zone. The modality doesn't matter as much as just getting the total volume in every single week. But a lot of guys do skip their cardio. Again, it's just going to allow you to burn more calories. It's going to increase your TDE. It's also just going to make you a healthier human. So please stop skipping cardio. It's a great low hanging fruit you can grab onto when it comes to burning more fat. Now, on the flip side of that, a lot of guys will choose to do cardio over lifting and over proper nutrition training principles. That's another great way to end up skinny fat and not building the physique you want and run into all the problems that we went over at the beginning of this video. So make sure you're tacking in cardio at the end of your workouts just to get a little bit extra fat loss while you're leaning out and in this recomposition stage. And that's all you need to do if you're looking to recomp your physique. If you're wanting to lose fat, build muscle, those are the 4 things that you need to follow and the 3 things you need to look out for. Again, it's a slow process. Building muscle slow, losing fat can be slow, although it can be fast. You should be getting lean within 3 to 4 months. All of this takes time. It takes commitment. It takes dedication. These things will help speed it up and actually get you where you want to go, because nothing is worse than going through cycles of thinking you're doing the right thing, not getting the results, getting frustrated, stopping, and then ending up worse than where you were. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe. I'm going to be dropping a ton of fitness sauce. I'm going to show you some client testimonials. I'm going to show you some travel videos. We're going to Costa Rica next month. So please like, subscribe, follow me if you want to join along on the journey, if you want to get in the best shape of your life. And please go check out my other videos. I haven't uploaded for a while, but those other videos still hold true and will help a lot. It's the same processes I've used with all my guys as well as I've used in my own life. So go check out those videos. Thank you guys for watching. Peace.